but just letting people know, man, this shit is real and it's still occurring. And it literally, we could have been one bad comment or bad day away from something really bad happening, because those officers were on guard, like heavily. And it was like,
They're itching for something.
Itching. They were itching. And it was weird because it was like, there was nothing about us that was remotely threatening.
The ongoing series about the life of the people touched by the love of the Pacific. Here are their stories. This is Highway 54.
So today's Gimme 5, man, this is it's kind of in line with some of the things that we've been discussing today. So obviously a couple weeks ago, I was back in the Midwest and went up to North Dakota to see my brother coach. I was with my mom and my mom's husband, Tracy, and my two little cousins. But I was driving from Lincoln, Nebraska to Wahpeton, North Dakota, where my brother coaches at. And just to give you like background on the story, like we rented a car, or my mom and them, they rented a car and they drove it from Joplin to Lincoln. And then I drove it from Lincoln to North Dakota. But, it's a 6-hour trip to go from Lincoln to Wahpeton, North Dakota. And most of it's through South Dakota. So I'm driving, the car has Florida tags on it. But the highway, South Dakota, it's 80 miles an hour is the speed limit. And I guess back in the day, they used to not even have a speed limit at all at one point in time. But nobody goes 80. I mean, people are just flying. Like there's times where I was going 85 and it was like I was sitting and, I was standing still. So at one point in time, I hit a nice little stretch. It was straight away, and just keeping it real, I was going 98-ish, right below 100. So I get pulled over. And I knew it was justified, right? Like we were in a Dodge Durango, and had 3 rows of seating. So again, me and Tracy, my mom's husband, we're sitting. I'm driving. He's sitting up front. My mom and Tracy's daughter are in the middle row, and then my cousin Garen and my cousin Ethan, they're in the back. So we get pulled over. Cop comes up to the window. He approaches on my mom's husband's side. And it's a South Dakota highway patrolman. Tracy had already started getting his stuff out to hand him his paperwork. And because typically when we get pulled over, they usually want everybody's ID in the vehicle. That's kind of been, when I'm in the car, that's always been the case. Like they ask for everybody's ID, even though only one person's getting pulled over, the driver. But so Tracy starts pulling his stuff out. The cop's like, nope, I don't need yours. I just need the driver. So I'm like, okay, that's cool. At least he's not doing what we typically have to go through. So I give him my information. He's like, why are you driving so fast? I was like, hey, my brother's got a basketball game today. And we're going, we're headed to the game. I'm not trying to miss it. We have this 6-hour drive. We had about an hour left before the drive was up. We were almost to North Dakota. And he's like, okay. And then he's like, you guys got any drugs or weapons in the car? And my mom's husband, he has a concealed carry. He was in the Army for 27, 28 years, retired Army. He has a concealed weapons. And he's like, I have a pistol. I have my, concealed license or whatever. And he's like, where's the pistol? And I think he might say it's on his person or whatever. And he's like, all right, well, make sure you don't reach or anything. And then he's like, driver, you go ahead and step out of the car. And so I get out of the car, and he tells me he wants me to go sit in the front seat. So I sit in the front seat. He comes and he sits down. And again, I've probably been pulled over more than 20 times, less than 30 times in my life. And I've been pulled out of the vehicle probably half of those times. So this was like nothing new. What was new was having to sit in the front seat. I've never been told like get in the front seat of the car. And mind you, I don't have any type of record. I don't, have anything crazy on my shit. I've had like 2 speeding tickets in my life. I got DWI when I was 21 years old, but obviously that's not even on my record anymore because that was a long time ago. But other than that, yeah, I don't have anything crazy that would have officers pull me out of my vehicle like they like to do. So anyway, I'm sitting in the front seat. He sits down, and I haven't talked about this much outside of with my mom because this whole thing really bothered me a lot, and I didn't want it to overshadow our trip and just being with my family in general. And we didn't allow this to really fuck with us too much. But the more I think about it, the more just how fucked up the whole situation was. So I sit in there. He's asking me questions and, asking me where we're going, all this shit again. So I'm telling him, hey, we're going to Wahpeton. My brother's a basketball coach in North Dakota. And so his line of questioning, then he goes back and he's like, something. He's like, Fargo, as if he's trying to trip me up. And I was like, no, we're not going to Fargo. We're going to Wahpeton. And he's like, okay. So then he goes back out to the car to go talk to my mom and them. And I told him before, he left the car, I said, hey, my mom's husband is a military veteran. He was in the Army for 27 years. Yes, he carries a pistol, but he's a good guy, upstanding citizen. He's a military veteran. Just reminding him, because my thought, after that, he knows that there's a gun in the car. He's going to be a lot more apprehensive, right? So he goes back up to the car and he never puts his hand on his gun. He has his hand kind of on his waist, like he's right there. And that was hard to watch as I'm sitting in the front seat watching my family being questioned by this cop who, and all he sees is, some black kids and a black man sitting in the front, and he knows the guy has a gun in his hand and, on him. So my first thought is Philando Castile. If you guys have never seen that video, Philando Castile was a, legally rightful owner of a pistol and could have one. Officer asked him to show his ID. He goes to grab his ID. The cop shoots him, kills him, right? That's the first thing on my mind, freaking me the fuck out, knowing he's walking back to his car. So he goes there, he's questioning them. Boom, he comes back to the car. And when he gets back in the car, he's like, all right, so I'm a straight shooter. I was, I'm an ex-Marine, or he didn't say ex-Marine. I'm a Marine. And I have, I feel like there's a lot of drug peddling that goes on here. And you have any heroin or cocaine in the car?
The fuck?
He asked me if there was any heroin or cocaine. And I just like this. I was like, no, we got a bunch of kids and my mom and my mom's husband in the car. That's all. I was like, and he's like, listen, this is nothing personal towards you, and right. I'm sure there is a lot of trafficking that goes on through South Dakota or whatever. But then he's like, yeah, Fargo is a really bad for drugs. And I said, again, we're not going to Fargo. We're going to Wahpeton. He's like, well, Wahpeton's really bad too. And I said, sir, is there anything about myself or anybody else in that car that would suggest that we might be peddling drugs? And he's like, I don't know you, and I was just like, yeah, I was like, I've been down this road before. I've had these kind of run-ins with police officers, man. And I was like, and it just kind of gets old, honestly. And this is the conversation we're having, and he made a suggestion. Oh, again, this is nothing personal towards you, and I guess he asked, them the same kind of things, asking them about drugs and whatnot. And it's literally like, no, bro, he goes, that's what he said. He goes, you guys are, you're speeding in a rental car, Florida tags. And I don't know any of you all. So it just looks suspicious. And then he goes, and on top of that, he's like, you're a little, he goes, you're acting a little nervous.
You think?
God, the fuck.
You think?
Right. So this probably was the most, like, the best part of it for me was to be able to tell this man, I said, you know what, sir? I said, there's never going to be a situation where you pull over a black person and you put them in the front seat of your car and they're not nervous. There's never going to be a situation, whether that person's guilty as hell or they're innocent, haven't done shit ever in their life. You're never going to have a situation where a person of color sits in this car or is outside of their car and they're not nervous. And then he's like, listen, not all cops are bad.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, you don't have to tell me that. I never said all cops are bad. And I wasn't trying to be an asshole and I wasn't trying to get attitude, but it was a lot of emotion, man. I was feeling a lot of things because I didn't want him back at that car. So right as we're having this conversation, 2 more cops pull up and they they knock on his window. He rolls down the window. And before he could even say anything, I said, that vehicle has my mother, 3 kids, and my mom's husband, who's a military veteran in there. There's no weird shit. Nobody's got any drugs. Just letting y'all know that off top. And the dude's like, he goes, I don't even remember what the guy said to him. And then he goes, the cop that had the officer had me in his vehicle. He goes, it's all good, guys. He's like, it's good. Stand down. So then they go back to the car and we kind of finish up our little thing there. And he goes, what states were you at, or what places have you been where you had bad interactions with police officers? I was like, a lot in Arkansas, I said Missouri, Louisiana. I was like, Oregon, actually, since I've been in Oregon, I pulled over 2 or 3 times in Oregon, and each time it was nothing crazy, and I didn't even get a ticket. Like, they literally gave me a warning and let me go. So one time I was coming down from the mountain, and I was going like 7 over or whatever, and he literally was like, just slow down, boom. So I can't say I've had any bad interactions with Oregon police officers at all. But and I told him, I was like, I have friends that are police officers, dude. I know not all cops are bad. I was like, but the thing about it is, like when you're talking to me about being nervous in this car, like I think it's crazy that you think I'm just gonna be
not nervous,
right? And so right as he's like, all right, man, I'm gonna bump you down, and he gave me a ticket for going 10 over instead of 18 over. So that was his way of like being buddy. He's like, I'm gonna ride it for 90. He's like, tickets here are really cheap because we get a lot of people speeding through here, obviously. So boom, have a good day. And just as I'm getting out of the car, the other 2 officers that he'd already told to stand down, they're walking back up to the car, and they got their hands like right on their hips, kind of like he did earlier, walking back up to the vehicle. Like, again, in my head, I'm like, my mom and some kids are in this car. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, man, I at that point, I just looked at him. I was like, what the fuck are they doing? I thought you told them to stand down. And he goes, dude, he looked at me. He goes, dude, I have no idea. And he's like, you're free to go. So I get out of the car. And as soon as I get out, they turn. They just gotten up to Tracy, my mom's husband's window. And I don't even know if he'd rolled it down yet or not. But they turned and they saw me, and they saw that he was letting me go. So then they were like, all right, never mind. You guys have a good day. And then they walked back to their car. And we rode the rest of the trip. I got in the car and we rode it, and it was in silence. Man, I think there was music playing. My mom and I were talking about, like, I don't even remember if the music was playing, but it was silent. Like, it was just like and what was fucked up about it, Floyd and Abby, is like, they were scared for me, right? The whole time they're sitting there, they were scared for me. I knew in my mind, I was like, oh, I know my mom is shook. Like, cause they're like, oh, you're in that car with that cop. If something happens to Kellen, we can't see, hear anything. We don't know what happens. And it'll be just like anything else. It'd be his word against mine. Yeah. And what's funny is I was never once worried about myself. When they separated us, I was worried for them because I knew that they knew that my mom's husband was carrying a weapon. And all I could think of was Philando Castile. And I was thinking, if they're going to shoot into that car and they could fuck around, not only would they be wrong in shooting him, who legally owns this weapon, told them about it, right? If he had malicious intent, he wouldn't be telling them that he had a gun on him, right? So I'm thinking about that. So if they shot him, but they could hit my mother, they could hit one of my little cousins. And that shit was fucking me up the whole time. And I told him, I was talking to my mom about it afterwards, and I was just like, at one point in time, I was like, I just kept picturing the worst shit, obviously. And I was like, man, if they do anything, I will die here today. Like, I will fucking die here today. They are going to have to kill me. If they even think about doing something to somebody in that car, if they thought about, man, and that was the first time. I've had plenty of encounters with police officers where I was nervous and shit, but that was the first time where I was just like, no, I'm going to act. If something like, if they do anything remotely wrong, like him pulling me out of the car, I was okay with. I was the speeding one, boom, boom, boom. But if it would have been anything towards any of those people, it was not a good feeling, man. It was a sinking feeling in my stomach because I was just like, man, if anything happens, this is all my fault. Like, I shouldn't have been speeding. I brought this attention to myself because him pulling me over was justified, right? Like, there was nothing wrong with him pulling me over. It wasn't like, oh, it was racial profiling. Not at all. Not even in the least bit. But everything that occurred after that and all the line of questioning, they said, he even told me that it was standard protocol for them to put people in their front seat of their car and all that shit. And I just really have a hard time believing that if we were a middle-class white family instead of a middle-class black family, that whole thing would have been, I know it would have been a completely different situation. Like, the fact that these black people were traveling through South Dakota to drive to North Dakota to go watch their, brother, son, cousin, coach basketball just seemed unprecedented. And they're like, there's got to be more to it, and it's just sad, man. Like, it'd been a while since I had an incident like that. And then it was just sad. I was just hoping that, we get pulled over, I get the fucking ticket, even if it was 20 over or whatever the case may be, or 18 over. And then that was going to be the end of it, but of course there was more, and just the terror that my mother and my little cousins and everybody had to go through as they were worrying about me and I'm worrying about them, man. I wouldn't wish that on anybody, bro. I wouldn't wish that on anybody. And I didn't know if I wanted to talk about it because, again, I know there's a lot of people, everybody's got so many different stories, and people have way worse stories. They have way worse things, right? Like I ended up with a fucking ticket. Everybody went home. We're good, right? So who am I to sit here and complain about it when there's other people that had their lives taken in similar situations? But just letting people know, man, this shit is real and it's still occurring. And it literally, we could have been one bad comment or bad day away from something really bad happening because those officers were on guard, like heavily, and it was like
they're itching for something.
Itching. They were itching, and it was weird because it was like there was nothing about us that was remotely threatening. Even my mom's husband, who he has a whatever, he's like a nice fucking guy. He's a fucking teddy bear. You know what I'm saying? And so and you see that it's not like you have to knock down his walls to get to that. Like he's he's just a nice dude, and so when they make us out to be these threatening characters or potential drug pushers, and we got kids in the car and shit, and it's a trip, man. So that was today's Gimme 5, bro. I don't know. I hope you took something from it. Maybe you took nothing, but I just thought I would share that. So thanks for listening.
All right. Well, thanks, Kellen, for sharing, man. I know that, man. I can't imagine. But I can feel at that moment. Yeah. At that moment, like I wouldn't say I would give some kind of an attitude, but it's hard not to have that that.
I'd have been recording shit.
Snarkiness, right? Like, why are you asking me? What are you asking? And you said like there's nothing about you or about your family or the situation that would make them think that they're carrying drugs or that you guys are dangerous. The only thing that they think in their mind is justification is the color of your skin.
Yeah.
Right. What kind of fucking drug dealers would we'd be the worst drug dealers on earth? Black people, a fucking vehicle full of black people, Florida plates, doing almost 100 miles an hour, and we got a car full of fucking drugs? Are you kidding me?
Exactly.
Like, come on, bro. Yeah. Like, come on, man. And he told me at one point in time, I can tell you're a smart guy. I can tell you're a smart guy. That's what he said to me. And
gaslighting for me.
Yeah, he did. He's like, I can tell you're a smart guy. And I said, so if you can tell I'm a smart guy, then you would know that I wouldn't do 98 miles an hour with a fucking car full of drugs.
Aaron, like
what the fuck? Are you kidding me? And with kids in the car, and
heroin,
and Abby,
holy fuck.
He said heroin and cocaine. He asked about heroin and cocaine. And Abby, when you talk about the recording, so my mom, she got like a 27-minute video when we first got pulled over. But here's the thing: in the fucking video, my mom it's just like this. You can hear the initial interactions. She was scared. She was scared that the cop might think that she has a fucking weapon, and she didn't want to get shot. So that was the part right there. We can't record. My little cousins, you know what I'm saying? They're always on their fucking phones and shit. Nobody wanted to raise up anything and have this cop wonder what the fuck is being raised up and potentially be shot for it. That's another type of fear that people don't understand that we actually deal with, because we've seen it time and time again. Black people killed and all they had was a cell phone on them, and that's it. That's it. They mistaken the cell phone for a fucking, and my mom said that. She goes, I wanted to record. She's like, Kellen, I was so scared. I did not want to point it at you or at him, and I didn't want to have it too high where he could see me. And that's just sad, man. It's sad. It really breaks my fucking heart.
Were you handcuffed?
No, he didn't handcuff me. No, he just had me sit in the front seat.
But I'm with Steve. Like, honestly, thinking about it, there's no need for you to be pulled out of your car.
Right.
Yeah, but try arguing that with
right.
Like how many speeding tickets are situations where I got to be pulled out of my car? Like, why are you pulling out my car? Just get my license, my insurance,
right,
my ticket, and go away. Like, I'm done. So
it's like, give me my ticket. I'll
yeah.
pay the $500.
No, wait,
Yeah.
when he asked, I'm sorry, I'm trying to just really rationalize this whole
Yeah.
situation. When he asked you, when he asked you, you look nervous? Did you respond back like, who
Yeah.
wouldn't be nervous?
Bro, that was my exact response. I said, you're not gonna ever have a situation where you take a black person. I said a black person, and then I was like, and then later I said a person of color. I said, you're not gonna take a person of color out of their vehicle, and put them in a cop car, and they're not nervous.
Getting nervous.
Get guilty or innocent doesn't matter. So, and that's the thing too. Cops, I've had them do that before too. Talk about you're acting nervous. Well, motherfucker, you goddamn right. I'm nervous. You're fucking right. I'm not nervous because I'm guilty of something. I'm nervous because I don't know what your intentions are. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you're a good guy or if you're a bad guy. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And when you said not all cops are bad, I never said all cops are bad.
Yeah.
Not all black people are criminals either. Yeah. So there's that.
Bro, did you see that one video? I'm sorry that happened to you, and I'm pretty sure. Thanks for sharing too, man, because it hits more for real. You know, like to hear that story and to say that these stuff does happen, and at the end of the day, you guys are home, got a ticket, and you guys are, you know, not to say everything else is not valid, but man, it hurts. It hurts a lot. You know, that what we all go through and what you have to go through on a daily basis. Bro, I'm going to tell you right now how many times I got pulled over.
3 times?
I'm almost 50 years old.
Oh, 0 or 3?
3.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think I told you the story when the one time I really got pulled over. I was drunk as fuck.
Right.
They told that story. I was drunk as fuck, and so I would have been in deep shit, and I was still in the military at that time. Anyways,
right.
Yeah, man, that's scary. You talk about North Dakota, but was it a teaching moment to you? I mean, to that point, you've been pulled over before, but this is the first time that you weren't afraid, not just for yourself, but you're more afraid because of your family.
That's it, man. That's it. The other times, a lot of times it was me by myself or me maybe with one other passenger. And those situations, I didn't have that fear because a lot of times it was a white person that was with me. So they didn't have that same direct threat towards them, you know. But this time, man, I was a lot of things, man. I was angry. I was sad. I was mad at myself for one. I was super mad at myself because I was like, fuck, I put them in danger. Oh, yeah, not by me speeding. I was going. Everybody was moving. Like everybody's going. I wouldn't worry about that. But it was like why would I even bring this attention to us? You know what I'm saying? It was like why you can't get away with the same type of shit, right? And I was like, here I am now. If something happens, it's my fault. And so I was feeling that. But then to know, and like my mom's husband, he did the right thing by telling the officer that he had a concealed carry, right? Like that was the right thing. But then there was another part of me that was like, you know what?
You shouldn't have said anything.
You shouldn't have said anything because they had no reason to search our vehicle, right?
Because did he ask?
What's that? He did ask. But fuck that. If it's going to suddenly make this guy be more cautious and fearful and think that, you know, and potentially do something, even though this is a situation where literally we're just speeding, I don't know what the right answer is. Like, because then he said later on, well, what if he searched the car and he found the gun? Well, guess what? Suddenly now you produce your fucking your license, right? You're permitted.
I think legally, if you're asked, I think
you have to.
Be wrong.
I think.
Yeah, but
it could, because that could be held against you. Because I asked you, sir, do you have any weapons? And then by law, I think you're supposed to say yes. Concealed weapon.
And I completely get that. But also when you are in a state of fear and panic, sometimes you forget things, you know, sometimes you don't remember things, you know, and sometimes out of fear and safety, I could forget that
he's concealed.
And I'm not telling people to break the law. I'm not telling any which way, but I'm gonna tell you right now, I didn't like the way that situation went after that moment. And it would have been better off because there was no reason for him to have to search our vehicle in the first place, right? Yeah. There was no probable cause. It wasn't like we rolled down the window and fucking weeds just going out the motherfucker. Or he walks up to the car and we got lines of coke on our fucking lip. You know what I'm saying? Like there was no reason. There was no probable cause. Literally, it was just speeding. A speeding, period. You know? And
It's fucking crazy, man.
Yeah,
Like,
man.
who would ever ask you, like, do you have heroin and cocaine? Heroin? The
Yeah,
fuck?
heroin and cocaine. I was like, that's a hell of a combination.
It's a hell of a combination to ask me. Do I have heroin and cocaine? Like the hardest fucking drugs in the fucking world. What put you off that you think that I may be carrying heroin or fucking crack or cocaine?
Right.
Nothing. It's just the fact that
Right? Wouldn't I
yeah.
mean I'd be the same way, like the fuck? No.
That's what I said. I said, is there anything about me or anybody else in that vehicle that would make you think that we fucking be peddling drugs?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, what? That's very
What yeah.
specific.
So sir,
Yeah.
what conclusion or what tipped you off that I may have a possibility of fucking carrying heroin or crack cocaine?
Yeah. He did ask me too. He's like, have you ever done drugs in your life? Before he told me about asked me about the weed and all that shit, or excuse me, the cocaine and all that shit. He asked me, he's like, have you ever done drugs in your life? And I was like,
In
nope.
your life? Like,
Yeah, that's what he said, in my life.
like
Nope.
And do you realize, like any answer that I give him at that point in time is just going to give him the probable cause. If I said in there, oh yeah, I've smoked weed before. I smoked weed in college or something. If I were to say that, you know what I'm saying? I feel like that would have given him the ammo he needed. Well, you've done drugs before, so I think I need to search your vehicle.
Search your vehicle.
Right.
You know to be you know what's and you probably agree with me. You know what saved you? What saved you?
What's that?
I'm a military veteran.
No, he saw that. It's on my ID.
Well, for both of you guys, it took a notch down. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I'm still gonna fish. I'm still gonna fish. I'm already stuck at this moment. So he's probably just as nervous. Like, fuck, these motherfuckers are veterans. If something fucking would have happened, my career is done. But he still had the break of asking you to fuck you up heroin and get cracked. Like, what the fuck?
Oh yeah. Even because that was the thing too. He used that initially. He asked me about what branch I was in and where I was stationed or whatever. And he tried. Oh yeah, I was over in Japan too. I was in Iwakuni. I was like, oh cool, yeah. He was a Marine, so he was down at Iwakuni, and obviously we knew that part of it. But yeah, and Steve's right. He was trying to trip me up. That's why he asked me the same questions like 2 or 3 times. This went on for 30, 45 minutes or so. It was
that's crazy.
It was a while. So he was definitely trying to trip me up and see if anything in our story slipped up. And that's what he said too when he came back from the vehicle after he talked to my mom and them. He goes, well, your stories all match up. I said, the stories match up because there's nothing to lie about. Yeah. Like literally just speeding, bro. It was a lot, man. And I wish white people in particular would understand what that feels like, especially when it's like, it's not just a one-off. Like, this isn't the first time I've had that happen. This isn't, you know what I'm saying? Like, this isn't the second or third time, and I have many friends who can attest to it, who've been there, who've been a party to it. So it's amazing, man. It's amazing. And I'm nothing. Yeah.
Yeah. We're glad that you and your family came back, at the end of the deal, and but the bad part is that you went through that emotional. So we're really sorry that you have to go through that. Still haunt you to this day. The what ifs, it's oh man, it's so crazy that we still have to go through it. What year is this again? 2021.
Mm-hmm. Feels like 1950s sometimes.
1950s sometimes. You talk about North Dakota, South Dakota, down south, Arkansas, Louisiana. Yep. I mean,
oh yeah,
pockets of places where like there's 500 people, and so happen. But then again, it's like, hey guys, the moral of the story is be on your toes, situational awareness. Words matter,
right?
And when you go to these places, unfortunately, don't speed, man. I'm in North Dakota, picket fence somewhere. I need to slow down a little bit because they're waiting and they're waiting for you. You know what's crazy, Kellen, is like they customs, they do that too.
What?
And customs, they will do that. Hi, how are you, sir? How are you? Where are you coming from? Are you in the Air Force? Yes, sir. Oh, Dakota? Yeah. Is that an Army base? No, it's an Air Force base. Oh, okay.
Right.
They do that.
They do. Yeah.
Yeah. Because Guam, Japan to Guam, there's a lot of drugs. Sorry, Guam, I love you, but there's a lot of drugs going to Guam. So
Right.
they ask you all the time, whether you're military or not. They ask you, man. They ask you these weird questions. Iwakuni, oh yeah, that's a Navy base, right? Goes, no, it's a Marine base.
Right.
Yeah. And they give, if you say it wrong or you feel nervous, obviously you're all
And then
nervous.
they step up the next level. Yep.
Right, yeah. So he say, "Oh, Marine, Iwakuni," and if he said, "Oh, Iwakuni, yeah, that's an Army base," and he goes, "No, it's not. It's a Marine base." It's it's stuff like that. So
Yeah. Oh yeah.
well, thank you so much for sharing, man. I'm sure a lot of people got.
I'm just glad you
I'm glad.
guys were safe. Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Because
I'm thankful.
a shitty experience, and the fact that your nieces and nephews, or is it just nephews?
Yeah. They're my cousins. They're my little cousins.
Oh, just the fact that they had to see that and realize that,
did you guys
that is something they have to.
Did you guys have a conversation with the kids?
Yeah, man. So my little cousin Garen and Ethan. Garen's 13 and Ethan's 11. Yeah. So we stayed in the hotel room together, and we talked a little bit about it, and they just said they were scared for me. That's. I didn't go too in depth about it. I mean, there was definitely a teachable moment, but the big thing I was telling them is like, always just make sure you don't do any sudden movements, and yes sir, no sir, just that kind of shit. Like don't give them any reason to fuck with you any further. Like, and that's the unfortunate thing, because like Steve was talking about, like he has, like with white privilege, he can be argumentative or combative in that situation. Like, hey, here's my license, here's my registration. That's all you fucking need from me. That's all you require by law, unless they give you probable cause. But we can't do that. You know what I'm saying? And that's the part that sucks. But I just hate it for them to have to feel that kind of traumatic experience and be worried. I mean, my little cousin is Ethan. He was saying he was scared being in the very back, because obviously they can't see all the way back there and know how old he is or whatever. They just see a male, a black male. And so, this is a lot, man. It's a lot.
Real world, guys. Well, thank you so much again for sharing.
Yeah.
We hope you enjoyed the show today. Do us a favor and click on the like button or share our podcast. Thanks for listening. Till next time, we are Highway 54.